Good day. Today we'll be providing a technical overview of our FortiVoice Call Center ACD solution. To start, the Call Center feature is an add-on license to our FortiVoice Business Communication solution. Looking at the management interface of the FortiVoice, we're actually at the dashboard. The license information widget that you see here is the area where the call center license or licenses will be uploaded in order to expose it in the menu on the left-hand side. The number of call center licenses will be dependent on the number of agents needed. It starts with a base license that includes 10 agents. Then it is a matter of stacking additional 5-agent licenses to meet the agent requirement. Moving into the configuration of the call center, so we just simply expand this in the menu on the left. We'll first start off with the configuration settings. Skill set section is where you're able to classify your agents into different groups. You have your skill level section. So this is the area where you'll be able to describe the skill levels that you want to apply to the agents. So for example, levels 10 through 30 could be considered skill level for first tier agents, 40 to 60 would be for second tier agents, and then 70 to 90 could be for third tier agents. Next are the reason codes. So the reason codes is essentially explanations for why an agent is unable to answer the call, whether they're researching something or maybe have gone out to lunch. So for both, for the skill set, skill level, and reason codes, these are all default parameters, but these can be modified or you can create new ones. The data service is useful if you're using a third-party software to generate call center reports or statistics. So what you can do from here is enable this and set it up on the FortiVoice system to back up the call center data. In backing up the data, actually this will produce a CSV file that then you'll be able to import into that third-party application if needed. Under the global settings is where you're able to set the call answering priorities for callers when they enter the call queue. Next, we'll move on to the profiles. So these are the default profiles listed here. So I'm just going to double click on the manager option here. So you will create different profiles. This could be, again, based on first tier agents, second tier, third tier agents, supervisors, or managers. This basically is the class of service. So you can dictate what features, what settings you want an agent or a manager to have access to and visibility to. So we're going to open up the manager option here. So under the agent, you can specify whether the agent is, allowed to pick up the call from the queue. If they're found to be in a ring no answer state, you can do nothing, where basically no action is taken, the call keeps ringing. You can set up auto pause, where the call is paused automatically. Auto logout, where the agent is automatically logged out of the queue. Or it could be put into an auto hold off state where the call is automatically placed on hold. Under the queue, you can give agents more advanced privileges, such as the ability to allow them to change caller priority or even transfer the call to another queue. Under the manager privileges, you can give them privileges to initiate a call barge, interrupting calls in progress, whether it's for coaching or training purposes or just to overhear the conversation. We can also give them actions to force an agent to log in, log out of the queue, or pause or resume an agent. Under the agent console privilege, this is basically giving agents, managers, supervisors access to the web-based agent portal and the widgets that they're allowed to view and access. And that's something that I'll show in a moment. The monitoring console privilege has to do with the web-based wallboard that we can provide. So that's something that would have to be predefined within the call center settings under the monitor view. And that's something that I'll touch on as well. And then down below are your monitoring queue options. So essentially, you know, this is a profile that's being set up for agents. Typically, you want them to only be able to monitor the queues that they're associated with members of, versus a supervisor or manager where they may want to monitor specific queues or all the queues. So once you've set up your configuration settings and your agent profiles, then the next step would be to convert your existing extensions into agent extensions. So obviously, as part of the initial setup of the FortiVoice system, the extension setup is something that you would have to do. So when you click on agent, normally this would be blank. You click on extensions, which takes you to your global extension list. And so if we double click on one of these extensions and scroll down below, you'll now see that there's a call center section here due to the upload of the call center license. So this is where you'll want to enable this particular extension to be an agent extension. And if you click on the call center link in the pop-up window, here is now where you're able to apply the agent profiles that have been created. You can also specify what queue that they're going to be associated with, and also be able to apply the skill sets and skill level. Returning to the call center section here, we're going to now focus on the call queue settings. So I've created one here called Help Desk. Within the Help Desk call queue, or for any queue that you create, you have your queue settings. So here's where you could specify the maximum queue capacity, which I have it set here for 10. So what this means is if the 11th caller comes in that now exceeds this max value, and now that 11th caller falling into the queue will be treated, will change the state of this queue into an overflow queue, an overflow state, a queue overflow state. The same thing for the max queue wait time. So if someone has been waiting in the queue longer than 15 minutes, then that would be treated as a queue timeout state. And in those situations, there is call handling that you can apply, and they have the same parameters. So if we click on new, you have actions, different actions that you can select from. And because of the call center license, you have additional actions that you can choose from, such as the ability to transfer the call to another queue. You can change the call queue priority or change the call queue skill tag. Under the call queue settings, you also can change the music on hold that you want callers to hear while they're waiting in the queue. So that's something that, again, would be predefined under your phone system audio settings, where you may have uploaded additional audio files, and you just simply select that, and that's actually what the callers will hear as they're waiting. Next, we'll move on to the call distribution parameters. So with the call distribution settings here, you have different call distribution policies that are available. So we can ring agents simultaneously, ring agents in a round robin or sequential or random order, or route the calls to agents who receive the least recent call or fewest calls. Or this could be based on a wait random, so it will ring a random agent, but the wait is based on the agent's number of received calls. So essentially, agents who have a higher call count than others would be the ones that would receive the calls first. Or it could be priority based. So the priority base basically will dial the agents based on their rated ability to handle the call for that particular queue. Skill-based routing can also be implemented where the calls will fall against those agents that are at a lowest level, like a lower skill setting, and then it work its way up, or it could be routed to the top tier agents and then work its way down. Under additional settings, you have the distinctive settings for agent. So basically these parameters here is to assist an agent on how to answer an incoming call from the queue, especially if they're logged into multiple queues. So we can either modify the inbound caller ID, where that inbound caller ID, we can replace it with the queue name or perhaps use it as a prefix to the inbound caller ID. Another feature that's popular would be to provide a announcement to the agent before they're connected to the live call. So they could hear a prompt, notifying them of this is a help desk call versus a support call, for example. There's also the option to change the ring pattern. The business schedule is just basically the operation schedule that you want the queue to follow. Announcements to caller. So here is where we could tell their the callers in the queue what their hold time is, what their position is. We actually can also interrupt the music on hold with periodic or random announcements that you may want to share. So things such as, notifying callers, special updates, anything to that effect. You can deliver that. Queue entry announcement basically relays a predefined announcement to alert the caller as to what queue they've entered into. So this is something that would be useful if a caller has been transferred, has gone through multiple queues. Service level thresholds can also be implemented. So, let's say 80% of the calls that come in should be answered within 5 minutes. Obviously, this would have to be something realistic. So anything falling below this threshold, again, similar to the queue overflow state and the queue timeout state, we can apply specific call handling. We can also deliver alerts related to specific events that may have been detected within the queue, such as the queue overflow state or queue wait timeout state. And those alerts can be delivered in 3 ways. We can either deliver an email notification, let's say to the manager. We can call the manager's extension, or we could provide a GUI pop-up. So this GUI pop-up is something that would appear in the middle of the agent portal. So if the manager is logged in, they would receive that. And if they miss that GUI pop-up, there is an icon that will appear within the widget, within that portal, agent portal, that they can click on to review the most recent alerts. Next we have is the callback settings. So the callback feature is something that can be initiated by the caller that's waiting in the queue. So if they no longer are able to wait, I believe it's option 9 that they would need to press to initiate a callback request. So there is the system default prompts that will play. So it will read back the caller ID that it initially detected. And then the caller will have the opportunity to change that caller ID to something different if needed. Once they've confirmed the caller ID phone number, then that callback is now put in place. And we can handle the callback in 3 different ways. It can be done manually, where the agents through the agent portal will have a widget, a callback widget, where they'll see all of the calls listed in order of when the request was initiated. So they would just manually click on the next number in the list to engage the callback. The other option available is callback when agents available. So this will initiate a callback when there is an agent available or there are no current calls in the queue. And in this case, that callback request will be put in the last position of calls of that queue. The virtual placeholder allows callers to maintain the position in the queue. So even after they've initiated the callback request, let's say they were sitting in position 10, they'll maintain virtually that 10th position. And that callback is initiated when that virtual placeholder falls in the top 3 of the call queue. Surveys can also be added to the call queue. Again, this is something that would have to be predefined, so that's something that, again, you would configure within the call center settings. So in this example here, I've set up a survey called caller satisfaction, and if I click on edit, oh, actually that's not showing up properly here. Okay, let me just give me a second here. Let me just go back into that. Actually, let me cancel from here and access it. So here we have the call satisfaction survey that I've created. You have in this case here, a questionnaire has been created to rate the agent. So we could see the question that's been entered in. Welcome to the survey. Please rate the agent from 0 to 9. 0 reflects a poor performance, where 9 reflects an excellent performance. So this is something this is just a description of what's been actually recorded in that audio file that's already been selected and pre-recorded. And then you have your digit settings to specify the max invalid inputs, the timeout, or the max timeout allowed. So this basically is just based on the digit entry from the keypad. And with this survey in place, this comes alive once the caller has ended their call with the agent, then they're automatically routed to that survey. Next, we'll look at the agent settings for the call queue. By default, the agent type is set to dynamic, meaning the agents will have the ability to log in and log out of the queue. So the login, log out could be done using key codes, or it could be done through the agent portal by clicking on the action icons, which again, I'll be able to show. The static option means that the agent is logged into the queue indefinitely. But in most cases, we see the dynamic option being used the most. With a dynamic option, we could set up a automatic logout time where we could specify the X amount of hours before the agent is logged out of the queue, or we could easily disable that if needed and use the operation schedule to dictate when the agents are to be logged out of the queue. Now, if an agent is on a call, at the end of that last hour, the system does have the intelligence not to kick not to tear down that call. It will wait until the call has been completed before it logs the agent out. The wrap-up time is in place for agents once they have finished their call. Then they will have X amount of seconds to update the tickets, notes, in like a customer's account, for example. During this time, they're placed in a pause state. So they can wait for that time to expire before they fall back into a resume state to take the next call. They will have the option, if they were to finish early before this expires, to manually put themselves back in a resume state to take the next call. And this wrap-up time is something that could also be applied not for incoming calls, but also for outgoing calls as well. And then there's the call waiting option that's also available if you want agents to have the ability to take another call, place the first call on hold to take another call that's coming in. So they'll have the option whether to take that call or not. In most cases, I don't see this being used too much. And then if we click on the agent members, then this is where then we're able to select out of the agent extension listing what agents we want to be associated with this queue that we're creating. And then down below, you have your call handling. This essentially just summarizes all of the various queue events that can occur, the queue overflow state, the queue timeout state, anything falling below the service threshold. If all agents are logged out of the queue, or if all agents are in a pause state, again, you can apply specific call handling. And then anything falling outside of these 5 categories would be considered unclassified. So you could have like a general call handling in place, maybe to route it to like a general mailbox, for example. All right, next what I'll move into is the call center console or the agent portal. So with logging into the agent portal, for the FortiVoice system, it would be /admin. For the user portal, it would be /voice. The agent, it would be /agent. So they would just log in with their extension credentials or their LDAP credentials if that's been in place, if that's been put in place. Now in this case, this is extension 3012. So for them to log in, they would just simply click on the queue login action icon and select the queue that they're going to log into. Click OK, and then we'll see the icon turn from red to green. And now we can see that this icon here is no longer grayed out. You have several widgets that are available. You have the waiting caller widget. So basically, this is where they'll be able to see the calls that have fallen into their queue, see caller ID information, see what position they are in the queue, caller priority, if that's been put in place. So these are the action icons that are available based on that agent profile. You could also see how long they've been waiting in the queue. Down below, we have the agent widget. So the agent would be able to see any other agents that are also logged into that queue, and you can filter the various queues here. You can see when the agents took their last call, the total number of calls that have been answered, any reason codes that have been put in place, and how long they've been. The duration of that particular reason code. And to initiate a reason code, that's something that they can easily do from here. They just simply click on the pause resume, choose their action, choose the queue that they're associated with, and let's say this particular agent is researching something. So if we go ahead and click OK, we'll see that that's now taken place. You also see the action icons here, which are more associated to a supervisor or manager, where they can log in, force an agent to log into the queue, log out of the queue, or pause or resume an agent. On the left-hand side, starting at the bottom, we have the queue callback list. So this would be the manual option that would be available. So if a caller initiates a callback request, the manual option, the agents will then see those callers listed here. Then they would just simply click on the callback number to initiate the callback. And from a manager supervisor perspective, there are additional widgets here where they could get real-time statistics. So starting with the queue agent summary, they'll be able to see the list of the queues that they may be monitoring. They'll be able to see the total number of agents associated with the queue, how many are logged in, how many are available to answer a call, how many are in a talking state, pause state, or on hold state. They'll be able to view the longest talk time, the longest call waiting time, and then see the number of call waiting calls that have come in if that's been implemented. Then you have the queue stat today widget, where again they'll be able to see the queue the queues that they're monitoring. They'll be able to see the total number of calls that entered the queue, how many were answered, abandoned, went into an overflow state, went into a transferred state, were found to be in a queue timeout state. They'll be able to see the average talk time, the average wait time, the total number of outgoing calls made from the queue, and what the average talk time is for those outgoing calls. And for these widgets, this is something that can, you can eliminate some. So, again, based on that agent profile, you can dictate what widgets they're allowed to see here. So maybe for like a typical agent, they would have something like this in place. Or if the callback feature is not being utilized, then we can clear out the empty column where they just have the two widgets here for the calls waiting in the queue and being able to see the status of the other agents. Now, as I mentioned before, there is also GUI-based, web-based wallboard that is available. So something that can be, would need to be predefined and configured. So in this example here, this is one created for the help desk. And I've set up here to monitor the queue performance and the agent performance. So in this case here for the queue, I just have the one queue that's created on my test bed. So that's what we're seeing here. And then for the agent performance, this would be agents associated to that same help desk. So once this is in place, it would need to be, again, something that would have to be, it is a privilege in order to allow an agent to have access to that based on the agent profile that's been applied for the agent extension. So if they have visibility or if they're authorized to view it, then they'll have a monitor view icon, which then they can click on. So this is the one that I had created. So if they click on open, then now they'll be able to see information related to the queue performance and the agent performance. So I'll just minimize this here so that you can see that. And this FortiVoice 200F8 icon or logo, that's something that can be completely, that is completely customizable. So we can change this and input something completely different here. All right, other information that's available within the call center settings. Let me just increase this here. Are statistics. Now these statistics is only accessible through the management interface. Now we can set up admin profiles where they have an access profile to the specific call center features. So if this is something that we want to give to access to managers or supervisors, that is something that we could easily do. Another way though to deliver real-time information, of course, would be through the agent portal, as I was showing earlier. There's also call center reports that can also be created. So you have various queries that you can create. So instead of showing it through the GUI interface here, I'm going to bring up a Word document that I already have in place here. that outlines the different built-in call center reports that are available. So we have reports available for agents, reports available for the queue, the IVR, and the survey. So looking at the agent reports, once you choose your category, then you'll have 3 subcategories to choose from. So if you choose a summary subcategory, then these will be the reports that you can select and what the output is for each of those reports. So, if you're wanting to locate an abandoned call report, we do have one we do have a dedicated report for that. But as you can see, that abandoned metric is also visible in other reports. Once you've selected your query, you can specify the time period of when to extract the data. You can have that information or that report emailed out up to 5 email recipients, and you can receive the report in different formats, HTML, PDF, or the CSV file. You could also set a schedule as to when you want to receive the report, whether it's daily, specific weekdays, or specific calendar dates. And then the last item to touch on would be the IVR. So with the IVR, this is essentially an advanced auto attendant. So if you recall, for the callback settings, you can utilize the standard prompts, or you can actually customize those callback prompts using this IVR. Again, the advanced auto attendant. Another way to use the IVR would be to extract information based on the caller's input, like via DTMF tones, for example, to extract data from a backend database using the RESTful API. Now, we do have a tech note that does outline the configuration of the IVR, so something that I would highly encourage you to review. So this is available from our docs.fortinet.com website. So it's just a matter of just reviewing all the parameters that are available for the regarding the IVR. And essentially, that's the overview of the call center. If you have any questions, or if you would like to gather more information, I do encourage you to visit the docs.fortinet.com website, locate FortiVoice Enterprise, where you'll have access to the admin guide, our cookbook, which does also outline the call center parameters in here as well. Also, from the management interface, you do have access through the help files to review any call center features that you may want to access. Well, thank you for listening. Again, if you have any questions, please visit our docs.fortinet.com website or reach out to your local representative.